How's it going, everybody? It's been 2 weeks since we've had a meeting. My name is Adam Watson. If you're just now tuning in for the first time, uh, basically, I've done this trip from the lower 48 to Alaska about 6 times now through all this COVID mess. And I've got a lot of good tips. And I basically did a video kind of sharing some of these tips and was shocked how many people tuned in, and we've developed this into a weekly video for the most part. And when people coming up, they're emailing me and calling me and sharing me with me their story, and I'm passing it on to you guys. And I'm trying to create one place we can all share some information. I haven't had a video in a couple of weeks. I had some life changing events go on since last video, which I know was an hour long, and I apologize for that. I had a cool time. We had some YouTubers come up. We took them flying, and that inspired me to do a flying video because I haven't flown in a while. And we did, my wife and I, Christina, we did that, added to it to show how beautiful this place is, and then we gave her tips. It ended up being an hour long, and I apologize for that. I know not everyone has an hour to sit and listen to me ramble on. Anyhow, the day after, my grandmother died, and I had to fly to Atlanta, and I actually officiated her funeral. It's the first time I ever officiated a funeral. I do weddings, but I've never done a funeral. And anyway, she's in a lot better place, and it's actually a positive thing, not a negative thing. She lived to be 93, basically, and that's pretty incredible. And then my wife, while I was gone, and my wife's a flight attendant up here, she got COVID, and I came back and got COVID too. And my wife ended up spending 2 nights in the hospital, and I ended up going on oxygen. And now I don't want to. I'm keeping my YouTube channel clean, and I'm keeping it where there's nothing political, nothing. But I will say that we came across some amazing doctors that prescribing ivermectin and fluvaxamine. It's an antidepressant and a drug that's a deworming medicine. It's not recommended by the CDC, but these doctors are finding it's working great, and it worked miracles for my wife and I. My wife went from being on oxygen to being normal in 2 days. My dad went from being almost bedridden to uh, cutting grass the next day. So this stuff's really working, regardless of what the CDC says. So, but it worked for us. So if you have any COVID problems, please reach out to me. My email address is bigskyblessing@gmail.com. That's not what the video is about. It's not what my channel is about. But I figure I'd share that if I could help somebody the way it's helped us. So not saying it's approved, not saying it works. I'm saying it works for us. So if you haven't already, if you're just tuning in for the first time, we're giving weekly updates of what people are seeing when they're coming through the border, and we're giving tips of how to get across through Canada during this crazy COVID time. So please give me a thumbs up. If you like what you hear, please write me and tell me what you don't like, what you want to change. And I feel like I'm going to end up leaving someone out because I've had so many people write me. I know I'm going to leave several people out, and I apologize. So please, if I don't answer your question, please email me, bigskyblessing@gmail.com, and we will go over it next week. So basically, that's where I've been the last 2 weeks. Actually, last 3 weeks. Funerals, COVID, you name it. It's been heck. So been a heck of a time for us. But things are great now. They're looking up. I've heard from a lot of great people, so we got a little bit of things to share. So I'm super excited about that. One thing I want to start with that I'm seeing a huge trend of, and I want to say this before I say what I'm about to say. The thing that makes the United States of America one of the greatest countries in the world, and I've been to 19 countries, I've been to 49 states, and I'm telling you, I mean, Mexico is probably my favorite country, but I'm glad to be an American in Mexico, if that makes any sense at all. I feel like we're the greatest country on the planet. I know we have our issues like everybody else does. There's nowhere perfect. But the thing that I think that makes this country the absolute greatest country on the planet is the fact that we Americans can think outside the box. You know, we can look at a problem and just come up. Let's like these doctors that came up with two medicines that are not designed for COVID. They're curing people. So, you know, this country just thinks outside the box, and that's what makes us who we are. That's what's made us who we are today. I think that, and the fact that we were born around, you know, this country was bought and in God we trust. It was, you know, brought up on Christian standards to start with. So that's Adam Watson's personal opinion, but that's what I think. And with that being said, I'm watching all these people on YouTube that are literally selling everything they own, and they're buying an RV, and they're going down to Mexico and they're starting up YouTube channels, or they're just flying down to Mexico, or they're driving their little Prius. There's a cool couple I watched going to Mexico. They're called Tangerine Travels. Look them up. They're amazing. They're on YouTube. And it's a young couple that sold everything they own. They've been living in Mexico for 3 years. And they're doing all these YouTube channels, and just that's what I love about Americans. We can come up with some off the wall idea and just go live simple. In fact, I hope to be out of debt in the next 8 months, and that's my goal, is to live simple. And my wife and I have a lot of cool things we want to do here in Alaska and in Mexico. So, that's what I love about it. So I'm saying all that to say, I know I ramble on too much. We think different than most countries. Um, I've met a lot of cool Canadians that think outside the box too. I'm not saying Canada don't, but there's a lot of cool Americans right now that are selling everything they own and saying, I'm moving to Alaska. I'm getting out of this crazy lower 48, and I'll just get a job when I get there. Well, to me, that's normal. That's cool. Why not? But the Canadians are having a huge problem with that because they think you should have a job before you get here, and this, that, and the other. So I just talked to Tiffany this morning. You might have heard me talk about her. If you've watched all my videos, you've definitely heard me talk about her. She's the one I said her and her husband should be truck drivers. My goodness, they left in a 26-foot U-Haul, and I don't know if you've ever driven a 26-foot U-Haul, but they ride like a horse and wagon with wooden wheels. So they left Florida Thursday, and I think by Friday night they were in North Dakota. Yeah, that's just amazing. Like I said, more power to them. I don't want to do that, but they did. And they're kicking butt. I think she said they're going to be in the Yukon by tomorrow, and they just left Thursday, and today's Sunday. So it's pretty amazing from Florida. I mean, that trip would take me 8 days. I would plan 8 days for that trip, and I think they're going to do it in like 4 or 5. So they're definitely killing it. Anyway, she said, so they're think outside the box Americans, and they're just going to get a job when they get here, and they're moving to. They've already found a place. They're moving up here, and they'll worry with work when they get here. And that's what makes this country so great, because we can do that. We can think outside the box. And that's what I love about it. I mean, there's another couple I watch on YouTube live out of a van in Mexico right now, and they make enough on YouTube to just enjoy surfing. Man, I'm going to tell you something. I've had some really cool material things in life, but living a life of just no stress is pretty cool. And that's what I love about this country. You have that option. Um, so anyway, I'm saying all that to say I'm running into a lot of people that are thinking outside the box, that are coming here to Alaska to escape some of the craziness that they feel is happening in the lower 48. And Canada's having a problem with it. If you're not moving here for a job, if you're just moving here for the hell of it, they will not consider it essential, and they won't let you across. So here is my tip to get around that. And I've said it in a lot of videos. I know I move around too much. I'm part Italian. I guess I still got to talk with my hands. My tip for that, if you have the money, if you have the time, I've said this several times, and I'm gonna say it on a lot of videos. My tip would be for you to fly up here, figure out where you're gonna live, because some people are literally coming up here without a place to live. At least figure out a way to establish some type of mailing address, get a PO box, go to the DMV, make sure you set an appointment prior to, get your Alaska driver's license, then go back and get your stuff. And when you come up, you're going home. Once you claim Alaska as your primary residence, it then becomes your primary residence. You have that Alaska driver's license. If you've got a vehicle, go ahead and get your tags. You'll have your tags for your vehicle. Tags in Alaska are way cheaper than wherever you're coming from. I can promise you that. And you're established up here. That takes all the question out. If you don't have some kind of proof that you have a job up here, they almost didn't let Tiffany and her husband across because they did not have employment here. She was able to prove they had some money. She was able to prove they've spent a ton of money. They've got rid of their place in Florida, and she was able to prove that they've already put, I think, money down on a place, and we're already in the process of getting a place here. But they almost, and she emailed me this morning and told me to please talk about that on today's video. They almost did not let them across because of that employment issue. So that's what I'm saying. I know we think outside the box. They don't. There's people going to jail right now and for having church in Canada. There's people that are, to me, the way they've handled it's absurd, but that's just my own opinion. But anyhow, so make sure you have some sort of proof that this is you're coming to your primary residence, or have some type of proof that you are have work here. Work, they like to see work more than anything, because remember, if you're just moving to Alaska for the hell of it, they don't consider that essential and they won't let you through. They don't think you should be able to think outside the box. And look, I love Canadians. I've got some great friends in Canada. I just don't love their government. I don't love our own government for that matter, but I really don't love theirs. They have definitely showed some colors that I don't like during this, and that's why we're having these videos every week, to figure out how to deal with their crazy regulations to get you guys up here to the beautiful state of Alaska. So that's that. I wanted to really go over that. Now I'm going to dive into a few emails that I've gotten. I know I'm skipping some people, and I'm so sorry that if I am. And what I'm going to start doing at the end of every video is I'm going to start going over the requirements to get in, because that's a huge question. If you haven't watched all my videos, I haven't been covering that every video. Let's see. I talked about Tiffany's email. She was just telling me about what took place today. Oh, another good one to cover, because some people that watch this are watching. So a question that I get a lot, I'll go ahead and go over this again. A question that I get a lot, and I see my color of going in and out, and I don't know what's causing that today. I'm using Zoom to record this, but anyway, I apologize for the quality. It looks like I look like I'm tan for a minute, and then I look like I'm not tan. So probably because I'm moving today much. I don't know. You do not have to have a COVID test flying to Alaska. There are no restrictions anymore, thank God. Tim Brown reached out and said that him and his wife were looking at flying up here and renting a car. Now they're going to end up. Now they're going to end up coming up here and doing everything by train and rail, bus. We're going to do Uber, rail, and buses, because the rental cars are getting quoted at $5,000 a day. And when Tim told me that, I jumped online and I literally couldn't find a car rental for the month of June. Nothing. I've got some other friends that were going to come up here in June, and the airfare was really, really cheap from Atlanta. It was like $250 round trip. I mean, they found a killer deal in Delta, and they were going to come up here and visit my wife and I, and they cannot find a rental car. And all we have is 2 Subaru Outbacks. We don't have enough car to put all that whole family in. So they're probably not going to come just over rental cars. So if you're flying up here, rental cars are a real big issue all over. I was in Atlanta a few weeks ago, and a rental car for 4 days was going to cost me right at $500. I've always rented a car. I don't like being picked up by family at the airport. I don't like inconveniencing people. I inconvenienced my parents that trip, because I wasn't spending $500 for a 4-day car rental. It's crazy. So that's something to keep in mind if you're watching this and you're going to be flying up here. Rental cars are an issue. Lawrence reached out to me, and I feel bad. I need to get back to him. He says, "Hello, sir. I do appreciate your YouTube videos. I'm looking to drive from Oklahoma to Alaska. I've been doing research on what I should need to pass into and out of Canada, but I've yet to get a hold of Canadian Customs for any details. Have I missed anything? I was hoping you could have up-to-date details. And I plan to leave the 15th or 17th of May. So that's pretty quick. So Lawrence, let's just dive into those details now. Instead of doing it at the end of this video, let's just do it right now. So the requirements to come up here is make sure when you get to the border, and this goes for everyone. So make sure when you get to the border, you have to have taken a COVID test within 72 hours prior to reaching the border. Tiffany did say this morning they're not so strict on the 72 hours, as long as it's within that daytime period. I would just, that depends on the agent. So I would try to do 72 hours. When you get to the border, make sure you've had that test, a negative COVID test within 72 hours. Make sure that you have paperwork. So what they're really looking for, and this goes for people moving from Alaska back to the lower 48, there's people from people vice versa, from the lower 48 up to Alaska. They're looking for what you did with your residence in the lower 48. We're going to use the lower 48 for this example. Same thing applies to Alaska people. So let's say you have a house in Florida and you're moving for Oklahoma. They want to see that if it's a rental, they want to get some type of letter from your landlord that you're no longer leasing it. If you sold it, have proof that you sold it. If let's say it's your home and now you're going to rent it out, prove that you have a tenant renting it out. I agree, it's none of their business, but that's what they're looking for. And then have proof of where you're moving to. And most importantly, if you can come up with employment, I would make that employment. If you can't prove you have an employment up here, that you're just coming here to live, there's a good chance they will not let you through. And I'm seeing that be an issue that's starting to really come up on a lot of people that are reaching out to me. So Tiffany said that that's what held them there the longest. They were really hung up on the fact they did not truly have an employer here. So they were able to get a letter, I think, or proof from their employer. I think they work, now so many people are working from Zoom, you can work anywhere. I think they're getting they're able to prove they could do their job that they were doing in Florida up here, and they were able to prove that. I forgot she did write that in the email. Um, so make sure you have that. Employment letter's key. If you can't get an employment letter, I recommend flying up here and getting an Alaska driver's license. So that way you're going home to your primary residence. But that's just me. Maybe you don't have the time. May 15th, 17th, that's pretty quick. But if you can prove employment, that's going to be key and improve your housing situation. Another big question that I get a lot of, and I've went through this myself, so I can speak from experience, and I hear from a lot of people. A lot of people, like my mom, driving to Alaska is a novelty. That's a cool thing. So a lot of people, and it's a long drive. So, you want to have someone to talk to. A lot of people, when we moved some stuff up here, when all this first started, my mom flew from Atlanta and met us in Montana, and they let her across. We were hung up at the border for 2 or 3 hours, and they almost did not let my mom across because she had no reason to be here. Well, this was back when like August, September. They've tightened the reins so much more since then. I know of a lot of people got turned away. I had a guy reach out to me saying his son was moving to Alaska and he wanted to know if he could ride with his son. There's no travel partners allowed right now. Each occupant has to prove they have a need to be here. Now, if it's husband and wife, that'd be pretty easy to prove. Okay, my husband got a job up here. I'm moving with him. They're going to allow that, but that's pretty well it. So make sure each occupant can prove that why they're moving up here. Travel times. I'm going to go over. I am going to go over lodging, and I'm going to do a PDF. I'll build a PDF on it, but I will go over lodging on this video here in just a minute. Of what I would recommend travel times through Canada. They're giving everybody 5 to 6 days. And another thing, my friend Charles, that I've met through this YouTube channel, wants me to remind everybody he had 2 DUIs from 35 years ago, and they did not let him through. So make sure if you've ever had a DUI, they won't let you through. The guy don't even drink anymore, I don't think. They still wouldn't let him through. So he drove all the way from South Carolina to the North Dakota border. No, I think he drove all the way to the Montana border, and they would not let him through because of his previous DUI history 35 years ago. If you've had any kind of criminal history involving fights, domestic violence, any of that, they won't let you through Canada. So that's something to think about. Guns, I think it's easier just to fly them up. That's even another good reason to take that flight to come up and establish a residence prior to even making the drive. Alaska Airlines is a good Alaska or Delta are by far the best 2 airlines. They're American to fly up here. Americans coming up here now, and they actually got some great deals. And if you're moving up here, I would establish the Alaska mileage plan and tie it to your American account because they're now partners. They're now part of the one world. Shipping, if you want to ship, you could ship Alaska Airlines, and it's something I recommend. And that's that. So make sure you have your COVID test, make sure you have proof, make sure you have your paperwork. Those are requirements to get across. Write me an email if you have any other questions about getting across. I'm hearing from people a lot. Don't let it intimidate you. I've talked to another couple in New York that are just literally shipping their cars from New York up to Alaska. That cannot be cheap. I can imagine how expensive that is. And they're flying up because they're scared to go through Canada. I know a lot of pilots right now. In fact, I go to church with a guy that bought an airplane, and he literally flew all the way up the coast in a single engine aircraft. If he'd lost engine, he would be dead because there's nowhere to land a lot of that route. And he would not come across Canada because deep down, I think he's concerned about the Canadian regulations. So, be really mindful and be really, a lot of people are so intimidated by Canada right now. Just play the game. As long as you have all your ducks in a row, you can make it. Don't let that. But a lot of pilots. So there's a pilot that crashed not long ago, lost engine, and landed in the ocean, killed himself, and it was all because he was scared to go through Canada with all these crazy regulations. So don't let them intimidate you. Just have your ducks in a row. It is doable. It's really easy. Everybody that does it emails me afterwards. Say, hey, I'm so glad I listened to your videos and had all my ducks in a row because it was so easy. As long as you have everything you need, it's super easy. So don't let it intimidate you. Just be prepared. Let's go through some more emails. So those are the requirements. And I'm going to breeze over lodging again. And then I'm going to do a PDF and go more into depth on lodging next week, unless you guys come up with something else you want to see. And this is your channel, not my channel. So make sure you tell me what you want to hear. Mr. Dawson wrote, I was just wondering about RV traveling through Canada and Alaska to Alaska and back. They won't allow that. They won't allow any. It has to be moving up here for work more, to be honest with you, or going to your primary residence. It's got to be one of those two things. Another question I get a lot about is essential travel. You're only essential if the trip itself is essential. So in other words, I use a truck driver. That's like probably the only thing coming to Alaska that would be essential would be a truck driver. You're, just because you have an essential job, as long as your job's not taking you through Canada, they don't consider it essential. I hope that makes sense. Um, Mickey in my home state of Georgia wrote and said he's been following me on YouTube. His question is, he's moving to Fairbanks, but he does not have a job or place to live yet. That just goes right back, you know. And I wrote him back and told him exactly what I just told you guys. Establish either one or two things. Come up here and get a place. Fly up here, establish, get the Alaska driver's license, get your tags for your car for Alaska. You'll be golden if you're going home, or figure out somebody to say you work for them, one or the other. Let's see, what else do we have? I know I've missed so much. That's all I'm going to share for now. And I'm so sorry if I've missed your email. I've gotten so many in the last few weeks and I apologize. Let's go over lodging real quick. Let me share screen here. I'm operating two computers and two mouses here. You know what? I just updated my computer, so I hope it allows me to share. Let me see. It is giving me trouble. I apologize. I should have had this set up. I just updated my computer literally this morning, and it is a huge update. If anybody has Apple, you'll know what I'm talking about. It won't let me do it while I'm recording. Oh, well, I'm not going to be able to share the route. So you know what? We'll do that next week. I don't want to make a really long video this time. It won't let me share, unfortunately. I love to show a map as I go. But I tell you what, I'm going to develop a PDF this week. I'll get all these new settings set up on Zoom. It changed everything when I did the update for my MacBook. I should have waited till later. And I will go over it in detail, and then I'll be able to email that PDF out just like I've been doing the gas PDF. For those of you that haven't watched, I've got a PDF with all the gas stops along the way. If you want it, shoot me an email. I'll be happy to email it to you. I've been sending it out to probably 50 people in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So I'll be super happy to email it to anyone that wants it. I'm going to do the same thing for lodging. We'll go over lodging more in depth. I will verbally kind of talk about lodging real quick. I like to stay at the border. So for you people that are coming up, that are going, like say your southeastern people that are coming up to Portal, I like to stay. I would recommend Minot, North Dakota. Get a hotel. If you're coming up through Montana, I recommend staying in Shelby, Montana. There's a Best Western there that's super nice. I believe they do allow pets. And I recommend staging the day before and then go over the border in the morning and minimize your time in Canada. Now, I do not recommend sleeping in your car. I do not recommend even attempting that. You need to plan these trips out. It's really long. So let's break it. And I do not recommend going up the coast because there's not a lot of gas stops right now. There's not a lot of lodging. And I don't recommend anyone sleeping in their car. I just don't think that's safe. And Canada don't require that. So that's another huge misconception. So for lodging, I recommend staging at the border. And then the next morning cross. So we'll use North Portal in North Dakota. I would make Minot, North Dakota, my stage point. Night one, and I cross from Portal the next morning. Night one, I'd stay in Saskatoon. I cannot say it right. If you look at the map, you'll know what I'm talking about. I would stay there. It looks like a really nice city. I found another city, and if I had my map up, I could show you. I found another city that was probably logistically in a better place, but it had the highest crime rate in the whole country of Canada, and it was like this small little 5,000 population city. So I don't want to recommend you stay in there. Tons of like drug problems and stuff. So I've really researched this a lot. I would say in Saskatoon or however you say it. I'll go over that better. And then Grand Prairie, I recommend the Hampton Inn. I've had several people write me that they stayed at the Best Western in Grand Prairie and they loved it. And I think there's like some kind of tent where you can grab beer and dinner and all kind of cool stuff. I recommend Brown Social House there. It's a really cool place. So the Best Western or Hampton Inn, I can definitely endorse because I've heard from several people that's written me, and I've stayed at I always stay at the Hampton Inn, but I would try the Best Western. Next night, Northern Rockies Lodge. Google Northern Rockies Lodge, Muncho Lake, Muncho. That is an amazing stop. You want to avoid Watson Lake. It's an absolute dump. So night 3, if you're coming from Portal, would be Northern Rockies Lodge. Night 4, Whitehorse is the best option. They're still technically avoiding us from going down into the city of Whitehorse, but a lot of people I'm talking to are doing it without any issues. So that's up to you. The last few times I went, I stayed in Haynes Junction at the Cozy Corner. I'd rather stay in Whitehorse. It just has more options and it's a nicer town. But Cozy Corner is a clean motel ran by a brother and sister that's elderly that are super nice, and the view is just beautiful. And then you'll be 109 miles from Tok, Alaska from that point, so you'll be almost there. No, I take that back. You'll be in Alaska in like 3 or 4 hours. So I think it's 109 from Beaver Creek. Anyway, that's what I recommend. I do break down fuel stops. I did that a few videos ago, but those are the lodging I recommend. I will next week we'll focus more on lodging. I'll put together a PDF because that's definitely a huge question that I get. And that's all I have for this time. Please send me an email of what you want to see. Remember, this is your channel. I'm trying to help spread all the information that I can to help people. Just so you noticed, I have talked to probably 15 people in the last 3 weeks over email that's made it across successfully without any issues whatsoever. You're getting to the border as long as you got all your ducks in a row. It's only taking 45 minutes to an hour to get across. From what I'm hearing, one guy said he got across in 30 minutes. I don't see how. That's unheard of, but that's one guy says he did. They're making you COVID test there, but it's self-administered, so you don't have to check your brain with it. And then I'm hearing they are still stopping you at Watson Lake, and they're just asking you a ton of questions. You'll have some woman that looks like olive oil in a hazmat looking suit that'll ask you a ton of questions. At least that's the way it's been every time I've been through there. That's all I'm hearing. No, as long as you have your ducks in a row, it's super easy. Don't let this trip intimidate you. So I look forward to hearing from you, and we'll definitely next week, I'll plan on doing a video geared more towards lodging. In the meantime, I'll be getting a PDF together. If you're about to make this trip and you want to know, just shoot me an email and I'll be glad to send that information to you. I hope everyone has a blessed week. I really appreciate you tuning in, and I look forward to talking to all of you. Have a good day.